We are going to do the lesson 3 homework page for this video. We have already done the lesson 3 problem set together, so I thought maybe we would try it a little bit differently this time and have the video kind of be a review of what we did together instead of the video being like our first step. So this is page 15 in your new book, the one that is module 6. Okay. So page 15 in that new book that you have. All right, so this should sort of just kind of go over the same sort of thing that we did in the lesson 3 problem set. So I'm just going to start up here at the top. And if you ever need to go back and like pause and look back at the problem set on page 13, just pause the video, go back, check and see what I'm doing back there with what we did together on page 13. Number 1 says, this table shows the favorite subjects of 3rd graders at Cayuga Elementary. Okay, so they were going through and figuring out what everyone's favorite subject was. It tells you the subjects here and how many students liked each one. So like, for instance, 18 students liked math, 13 liked ELA, which is English Language Arts, and 17 liked history, and science is the question mark. So that's going to probably be one that we're going to have to figure out somehow. However, I can kind of look and say, oh, question mark, but science. It's filled in on here, so I can go ahead and fill it in on here. Science, if I go over here and I follow my bar graph up, it stops right at this line, and if I follow that across, that is 14 liked science the best. Okay, let's go down. It says we're going to use the table to color the bar graph. The first thing I always want you to do when you're looking at bar graphs, the very first thing is I want you to always look along this side over here to see what it's counting by. This one, 0, 2, 4, 6, it is counting by 2s. That will help you because then it will help you realize that in between 2 and 4, you might need to know, like, if something stops halfway. Well, if it stopped halfway in between them, that would be 3. Okay, that's where it will come in really, really handy. Is you have to know which numbers are missing in between here. So since this is counting by 2s, I know that it's just missing, like for instance, right here, it's missing 3, 4. This is missing the 5, and then it's 6. Okay. So always check this first to see what it's counting by so you know what's in this little space in between. A says, how many students voted for science? Well, I've already filled that in up here on my chart, which I thought was the easiest thing to do. So science, again, we followed that up. How many students voted for science? I am not just going to write 14. I'm going to say 14, and then I'm going to TTQA. Students voted for science. Please don't spell science wrong. It's right there. Okay. B. How many more students voted for math than for science? Okay, so I need to fill in my math. Math has 18 votes. So that's going to be easy because 18 is already on here. 18 is this line right here. So I'm going to draw that. And I know it does not have to look perfect when you do it. Try not to scribble like a kindergartner when you fill it in. No. Put a little bit of effort into it because mine's not perfect, but I can tell you right now I didn't just go like a slob. Okay? Now that I know how many voted for math and how many voted for science, I can figure out how many more. There's that magic phrase. How many more? Whenever you see how many more, you always have to subtract. How many more students voted for math than science? So math has more than science, but how many more? So if you imagine math went over here, and it was right here. So you have 2 different ways to do this. You can start it here. Math is 18, and science was 14. So how many more? So take the biggest one, which is math, take away however many were science, which was 14. 18 minus 14. 8 minus 4 is 4. 1 minus 1 is nothing, so 4. How many more students voted for math and science? And then please make sure you do this. Write a number sentence. That's what I just did right here. And then I need to answer this question in a sentence. How many more students voted for math and science? 4 more students. I'm going to run out of room. Chose math. Okay, and if you want to write 4 more students chose math then science, you could put that in too. I was just running out of room. Which gets more votes, math and ELA together or history and science together? That means math and ELA together. That means I have to put math and ELA together. If you're putting something together, you need to add, but first I need to fill in ELA and I need to fill in history. So let me go back up to my chart. ELA, 13 people. So I'm going to go over here. Now, there is no 13 on here for me to fill in for ELA, so you have to figure out where. That's why I said look always what it's counting by. It's counting by 2s. So here's 12, 14. 13 would be right here. So ELA needs to go right up here. It's not going to stop here because that's 12. It's not going to go all the way to here. That would be 14. It's going to go right in between them, since 13 is right in between 12 and 14. Okay, and then history. 17 people chose history, so same thing. Figure out history. If you go up, this line is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Here's 16 people. If I stop here on this line, that means 16 people like history, but if I go up to here, that means 18 people like history, but I only need 17, so 17 would be right in between them, right here. So 17 people picked history. Okay, so when you're done, your graph should look kind of like this. Okay, then I can go through and figure this out. Which gets more votes? Math and ELA together or history and science together? So I need to do 2 things. I need to figure out how many this is together. I'm going to circle these so that I remember those go together. And then history and science go together. So they want to know, is it more if you put these 2 together, or is it more as if you put these 2 together? So you need to add these. Math is 18. And then I'm going to put that with ELA. ELA was right between 12 and 14, so that was 13. So if you add those together, 8 plus 3, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. The 1, carry the 1. 1, 2, 3. So that's hard to see, I know. 31. 31 people chose math and ELA. I'm going to make that short, okay? History and science together. Okay, so now I need to put these 2 together. So if I go up, history was right here. History, that was 17. Science was 14. And you can use this too. I'm just using the graph to practice using the graph, but you could have used this too. Like you could have just looked up here and said, history and science together, 17 plus 14. Math and ELA together, it means 18 plus 13. You could have done it that way too. And if you did, that's fine. Okay, let's figure out this history and science together. So 7 plus 4, so 8, 9, 10, 11. Write a 1, carry 1. 1, 2, 3. So that one's 31 also. So which gets more votes? When you go over here and you're going to make your sentence, I probably should have put my work maybe over here where I had more space, because then I could write my answer here. That's okay. Which gets more votes? We'll say neither gets more votes because they are equal. And I've already shown my work because it's here and here. So I've already shown how they're equal. Okay, I'm gonna flip it over here. This is the back, so it's just page 16. Number 2, this bar graph shows the number of liters of water Skylar uses this month. So this graph is going this way instead. So this is the whole month. In the first week, here's the second week, here's third, here's the fourth week. And along the bottom are the number of liters of water she uses. Okay, A says, during which week does Skylar use the most water? So if you look in here, it's easy to find the most. The most is the one that's going to go the furthest. So if you just glance at this, which one goes the furthest to the highest number? That's going to be this one. It goes right here between 60 and 70. So week 4. This one, do not have to write a complete sentence. They just give you this one little line because they just want you to write which week it was. Week 4. The least. So that means during which week does she use the most water? And then the least. Which one does she use the least? So then glance at this. Which one does she use the smallest amount? Which one is smaller? This one is the smallest one. All of them are longer than this, so that means this one is the least. That is week 3. Oh, here's this fancy phrase again. How many more you need to subtract? How many more liters does Skylar use in week 4 than week 2? So you are comparing week 4 and week 2. How many more does she use here than here? Because she obviously uses more in this week because it goes farther on the graph. So number 1, figure out how much she uses in each of those weeks. So this one, if you follow it down, so this is counting by tens, 10, 20, 30. This is counting by tens. So that means halfway between, week 4 is halfway between 60 and 70. And from rounding all the time, you guys know halfway between, that means this is 65. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write 65 over here by this one. And then week 2, if I follow it down, it stops right here, 50. So I'm going to put a 50 here. So how many more is week 4 than week 2? So how many more is 65 then 50? How many more means you subtract? So start with the biggest number, which of course is 65. Subtract the smaller one, and that will give you how many more. 5 minus 0 is 5. 6 minus 5 is 1. And I'm sure a lot of you did that one in your head. How many more liters does Skylar use? TTQA, Skylar uses, and then there was my answer, 15 more liters in week 4. Okay. Now, I want you to go ahead, since we've done these together, like when we did the problem set together, and we've kind of walked through some of these too, I want you to do C, D, and E on your own, and then I want you to tear out your paper and go turn it in.